the recording. Yeah, good day, good evening, and good morning from whoever you are tuning in, and welcome to our weekly session on the Move to Cloud ERP webinar session. Today, again, we have a very interesting topic. It's basically about run and continuously improve your business process. So how do you measure the success of your transformation project? How do you ensure a smooth path to continuous value after go live? As usual, please post your questions in the Q&A section. And today we have Dorothee Meyer from SAP joining us, who will give the session for today. Julia, the stage is yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Krenar, for the great introduction on the Move to Cloud ERP program. And also hello from my side. Thanks a lot for joining today's webcast. Today it's all about running and continuously improving business processes with SAP technology. Our mission today is basically to shed some light on what's recommended to you when you are about to complete your transformation towards SAP S/4HANA. Because we all know when finishing one project, the other one is either just around the corner or has already started. Before we get started, let's briefly understand where we are with respect to our Move to Cloud ERP series. We're now in the business process transformation track, and more precisely speaking, in our the fourth webcast of the business process transformation track. Some of you might have followed our practical guide series already and know already that we have a dedicated specific track on business process transformation being an important dimension during your move to the cloud. This subtrack is divided into the 4 sessions clustered by the different phases of transformation projects. And as I said already, we're now on session number four, which is focused on the run phase. If you're interested in the overview, the prep or implementation phase, make sure to check out the recordings linked on this slide and perhaps also in just a few minutes in the chat. So, what's on the agenda for today? We will kick this webcast off by taking a look at the methodology, which is closely interlocked with our SAP capabilities and respective activities, of course. Next, let's understand the objective of the run and also the continuously improve phase with respect to your business process transformation. Then, and since this is a practical guide, let's learn how SAP Signavio actually helps you in achieving such goals. We will do this by taking a look at the capabilities from a rather, let's say, academic perspective, meaning what can be realized theoretically, but we will also take a look at the actual system to demo some of the relevant capabilities. Then I will wrap up the session, of course, with key takeaways and share some additional information for you. And last but not least, we have some time reserved for Q&A. In total, my presentation, including the demos, will take about 35 minutes, I guess. Then we have around about 10 minutes reserved for your questions. So now feel free to sit back, relax, listen, and of course, don't hesitate to ask your questions in the Q&A box. My fellow colleague Robert Hüfler will cover the questions during the session via chat. And then, of course, we can answer some questions live at the end of the session today. So let's get started with the methodology, or a little recap, actually. Many of our SAP customers currently planning, preparing, or even running an SAP S/4HANA system have reached out to SAP to get guidance on the transformation's impact on business processes, because certainly there is a strong impact, which is also the reason why we have this webcast series, of course. And as a result, from the individual supportings delivered by SAP, we have then outlined an approach. And this approach is basically based on SAP's Activate methodology, but focused on the process dimension only. And it entails recommended activities to successfully transform business processes per project phase. So we don't only provide the methodology on how to transform business processes on an academic level, but we also equip you with the toolset and content to execute the recommended steps. This will help you in achieving three things. First of all, it will help you to realize measurable value, as you can focus on areas with the highest potential only. It helps you speed up your project timeline, of course, and it will help you mitigate project risks. Let's now double click on the methodology I mentioned already. The SAP Activate methodology is a framework to implement SAP S/4HANA. I think a lot of you already know that. And Activate is offered as a standardized setup to implement SAP solutions faster and easier. According to Activate, an SAP S/4HANA project is divided into its various phases. There is the discover phase, prepare, explore, realize, deploy, and run. In the discover phase, the aim is to get management buy-in for the transformation project and to align on the strategy on a rather high level. Then, during the prepare phase, the scope of the transformation project is defined, including process details and future target architecture, for example. The third phase is the so-called explore phase, where business requirements are defined and the actual preparation for testing is done. During the realize and deploy phases, tests are executed, the solution design is completed, training and enablement is done, and the actual go-live is happening. Now, in our situation today, the template is live and we're now in the run phase. In this phase, two activities are critical. The first one is, well, it's kind of obvious, making sure that the system is up and actually running. And of course, that processes are performing well. It must be reviewed. Defined KPIs, beginning of the project, have been actually met, and if promised values have been realized. If this is not the case yet, we have to make sure that respective adjustments to the template are made while the project is still on, right? Because you want to make sure you keep your promises. The second critical activity is to operationalize the process transformation, or in other words, making sure that the organization leverages the new processes and continuously strives for improvements. Let's now take a look at the objectives, right? After talking about some of the main activities, the two actually that I just mentioned, we can derive the following objective of this run and continuously improve phase. The first objective is to ensure that the target process performance goals and the promised values have been reached. I already said it, right? It must be reviewed and ensured that the previously defined KPIs have been met, and we must make sure that the promised values have been realized. If this is not the case, we have to make sure that the respective adjustments are made while the project is still running, right? Because you want to achieve the goals. The second objective is to make the top-notch performance stick. Once we can provide the achieved value, we must ensure that it stays. Even though some circumstances might change after the transformation project, you have to make sure that the realized value will persist. We can continuously realize value related to process management only if we identify bottlenecks or issues, quantify them, and then prioritize process optimization. The third goal, last but not least, and this is probably the toughest task, is, well, toughest task not with regards to tooling, but with regards to the organization, is that we have to establish a new mindset within the organization. The mindset of keeping process documentation and reality in sync, and of prioritizing process improvements towards a value-driven, efficiently operating organization, even after the transformation project, to make sure that all the values achieved will stick. The top-notch performance should stick. Now the practical part of this webcast began. So where does SAP help us, or what does SAP have in store for us to achieve such goals? Now, when looking at the activity of reviewing performances and realized value, those of you who are already familiar with SAP or SAP Signavio will be able to guess already which two products I'm going to highlight now. Particularly for reviewing performances post-go live, SAP Signavio Process Insights our process analytics solution, and the plug-and-gain approach are key. SAP Signavio Process Insights is a process analytics solutions for SAP customers, so only SAP customers can use it. And as soon as it is connected to an SAP system, Process Insights provides immediate insights into process performance. So whenever you hear process performance, think of Process Insights. What happens is that basically all standard ERP processes are analyzed and classified according to their level of performance. You can, for example, easily spot low-performing processes, drill down into each individual step, and then conduct a benchmarking to compare this process step's performance with other company codes, entities, or even other industry peers, so competitors, for example. When aiming to review performances, users can easily open a process flow and then compare the metrics within the different timeframes before the transformation project, during the transformation project, and after go live, for example. If you want to dive a little deeper into this topic, make sure to rewatch our analysis session. My colleague Robert is going to paste the link to the session in the chat now for just a few seconds. The second possible tool, which I'm also going to demo in just a few minutes, that we can use is the plug-and-gain approach by SAP Signavio. Plug-and-gain is an accelerated approach for process mining. With this approach, we get a great insight into process performance along with the actual execution in the system. What happens is it basically comprises process analytics solutions like Process Insights and our mining solution, Process Intelligence by SAP Signavio. And one major deliverable of the plug-and-gain approach is the metric best run score. The best run score shows us to what extent an organization is running an effective process. So that's super relevant in this phase right now. Please keep in mind that effective or running an effective process that does not necessarily mean automated or extremely fast. Instead, we take into account the multiple ways that exist to accomplish a process step. And some of these ways are more favorable than others, right? The more favorable steps taken, the higher the best run score is. I'm going to show you this in just a few seconds, actually. And as part of the plug-and-gain approach, we provide a deep dive analysis on the best run score with focus on specific end-to-end processes. This analysis is very helpful, as I said, to find out how the efficiency of a specific end-to-end processes has evolved over time. We can easily learn if the best run score has increased, that would be desirable, throughout the transformation project, and what can be done to further increase efficiency. I will show you this now in a live demo. And to do that, I'm gonna quickly share my screen. Okay. Okay, so okay, so you should now be seeing the process house. Okay, so the process house is our central point of entry when we enter analysis content in SAP Signavio plug-and-gain. You can also leverage this process house as a first governance for process organizations within your organization, because it's grouped by end-to-end processes. And then you can basically click on one of the end-to-end processes and dive in deeper. And you might see that there is the best run score available. That's the metric I tried to explain to you earlier, just a few minutes ago. So the best run score, as I said, is calculated based on the number of completed cases through steps that are either considered favorable versus not so favorable. I'm going to show you this in detail. We see over here, for example, that the best run score is at 43 for the entire company, meaning that 43% of all processes within that organization are considered effective by SAP. You can also click on source to pay now, where we see that the best run score is only at 33%. And then I'm just going to select one process out of the source to pay area. For example, this one, procurement for stock goods. And we can check out a typical process or a standard template. So that would be a typical process on what on a purchase order item creation process. And we see that there are some boxes which are red and we see some boxes that are green. And the more often a purchase order item is created by using one of those green process steps, for example, creating a purchase order item with SAP SRM or creating them automatically, this is considered favorable, while the more cases pass through one of those red boxes, like creating purchase order items in a dialog or via a different transaction, this is considered not so favorable. And the more often basically you pass through any of those green boxes, the higher the best run scoring is. Now, as I said, we're now in this phase where we want to realize or measure achieved values. So it makes sense to take a look at how effective some processes are actually running in the system. And to do so, we have plenty of deep dive analyses available for specific topics. And for example, we have a deep dive analysis on improving your best run score for the source to pay area available. So it measures how the best run score has evolved over time. If we open this now, we see that in total 180,000 cases have been identified, basically related to purchase order item creation. And we see that the purchase order net value is at 11 billion euro, so quite a lot. And now we can see the different values over here. I'm just gonna hover over this quickly. But over here, we can see, for example, the best run score in general broken down by purchasing organization. So perhaps we can see here that the best run score or the most effective processes are running in purchasing organization 2702, just as an example. On the right-hand side, we get an overview on the different or the evolvement of the best run score in general. And imagining that this fictional company has just underwent a transformation project, I would be quite disappointed actually, because the best run score is so low. So I hope ideally it's going up. The line is increasing over here, but in this example, it's not. So you can see how it's evolving over time. And now we can also, so we see this broken down by month. We can dive a little deeper by clicking on Analyze and then analyze your best run score over time. But for the sake of time, I'm not doing this right now. We can also learn how to improve the best run score. And that's something I find also very interesting. So we once again see it broken down by purchasing organization. And then over here, we see the different activities which are used for creating purchase orders in this example. And we can see that there is a green line, which is always pretty high on the top. So meaning that there are a lot of events using this specific activity. And that's one of the activities we've seen in the other diagram earlier, because this is creating a purchase order item in a dialog user. A dialog user is not ideal for creating purchase order items because this usually involves manual workarounds, right? So there is potential to improve the situation by, for example, creating purchase orders automatically. At the moment, the blue line is pretty low. The blue line indicates that those are the purchase orders created automatically, and perhaps there's potential to improve the situation. So these are just some of the findings for the best run score, which is a super helpful measure to basically understand how to improve your processes and make them even more effective. Now I'd say let's move on to the presentation again. And I'm just gonna switch views, I guess. Okay, so we've seen that analysis package by plug and gain on the best run score. The next one I would like to show you is the next sub-activity basically, which is about measuring achieved value. And for this purpose, you might know it already, there is the value analysis available. which is provided in SAP Signavio Process Insights, our process analytics solution. In the value analysis, what you can do is you can basically select a specific value driver you would like to focus on, for example, improving the efficiency of your procurement employees. And then you can calculate based on the system parameters what monetary value can be achieved, for example, by increasing automation by, let's say, 10%. For the sake of time, and the value analysis has been shown by my colleagues already, I'm not going to demo it now. But if you're interested, I once again can recommend to watch the recording that Robert Hüfler just shared in the chat a few minutes ago about the analysis session. What I am going to demo, though, is the second key tool when it comes to measuring achieved value. So we're still in that activity of measuring achieved value, and the tool that I'm going to show you can help us. And it can once again be found in Plug and Gain by SAP Signavio. It is also part of the deeper analysis offerings, where users can select specific deep dive analysis to focus on improving process inefficiencies by end-to-end processes. And one example I would like to show to you is the improve on-time payment performance, because there you can actually see how much values can be made or money can be saved. And yeah, let's take a look at it. So let's go back to the process house. Then I can also show you how you can reach those specific use case analyses or deep dive analyses. You've seen this process house already, which is also a helpful starting point for you as a specific process governance as a starting point. And you can click on the right-hand side for our advanced analysis packages. So over here we have a list, and you see up on the top the different end-to-end processes we have available. So right now, the previous demo I showed you was part of the source to pay area, and I showed you the analyze and improve your best run score. As you can see, we have plenty of more deep dives, and some are related rather to S/4HANA transformations, some are rather related to continuous improvement, so regardless of S/4HANA topics. The one topic I'm now going to show you is also from the source to pay, invoice to pay area. And as I said, it's about improving on-time payment performance. So typically, I mean, we all get bills, we all order things and need to pay for them, of course. And we might think that it's a very easy task, right? We have to make sure we're paying our suppliers from Amazon, for example, on time. That's easy, right? Because we don't want to incur any dunning fees. But as a big business, this is something a little different, and it's not that easy, to be honest, because if you really want to pay on time, we calculate that you have to pay 3 days or at least on the net due date. Or if you want to pay earlier, you have to make sure that you are benefiting from the cash discounts. If there's no cash discount, you don't want to pay too early, right? Because otherwise you could have invested that money elsewhere. Then, in turn, you don't want to pay too late, because then your supplier relationship is at risk, first of all, and there might be dunning fees incurring. So you see, it's not easy. In this fictional company over here, we see that the on-time payment rate is only at 41%, which is rather low. We set the threshold at 80%. And in total, the on-time or the total invoice amount analyzed over here is at 65 million euro, and only 27 million euro out of this are paid on time. But if we would pay on time a little more often, the financial impact would be at 48,000 euros. So that would be money we could save by just making sure we're paying punctual, like 3 days before the net due date, or taking cash discounts into account. If I scroll down, I'm again provided with some overviews. And for example, over here, we see a common behavior that around Christmas and December, there's a lot of payment done, probably to keep it in the same year. Makes a lot of sense. And we can also see the clearing behavior of on-time payment, late payment, and early payment. So there's a lot of content to look at. We can either investigate on early payments or late payments, but for the sake of time today, I'll focus on avoiding late payments only. And I think you'll be able to tell the story afterwards. So we see that, as I said, the late payment rate is at 32%, which is not ideal. And the amount of paying too late is at 21 million euro. We over here see, for example, the clearing date and the amount over time in a graphic. And over here, we can see what paying late actually means. So the majority of all purchase orders is paid within a week too late. I think that's totally fine. And there are not always dunning fees related to such payments, right? However, there's also a lot of purchase orders paid 1 or 2 months too late, which is quite high. And there are actually some purchase orders not paid yet because they are open for more than 90 days, 3 months basically. And taking a look at this could be a reason for this could be that there's a payment block made, but it makes a lot of sense to investigate the reasons or those purchase orders specifically and what's behind that. Now talking about supplier relationship management, of course, we want to keep our suppliers happy by paying them on time, right? So let's take a look at the top 10 suppliers with the highest amount of late payments and percentage of late payment. And we see that there is supplier L015, which is quite relevant, but we also see that there is this supplier with a super high percentage of late payment. So we might want to take a look at what's going on with them as well. Now, talking about late payments, there might be some root causes for late payments. And typical root causes are that the process of paying such suppliers is heavily involving manual activities. Perhaps the process of paying them is rather complex. That is one root cause, which is most commonly happening also in this fictional system here. Another reason could be that there are disadvantageous payment conditions, meaning that you have to pay immediately right after receiving after the invoice has been issued. Then it could be that there's a payment block, and there might be also some other reasons. Let's once again dive a little deeper into the disadvantageous payment conditions, and we can also move on. So one of the reasons for disadvantageous payment conditions could be, as I said, the immediate payment terms. However, there might also be the reason, and we see here that it's happening, well, not quite commonly, but often, that the payment conditions are incorrect, meaning that in the financial documents, there might be a different payment term than in the purchase order. Another one could be that there's unfavorable payment terms. For example, that you don't have to pay immediately, but perhaps within 2 weeks, which is sometimes rather difficult, for example, if payment blocks are involved. So you see there's plenty of potential to discover what to improve, to then, at the end of the day, make sure to save or take advantage of the financial impact of, which was it again, of 48,000 euro, quite a lot. So those would be tools we could definitely leverage. Let's now take a look at the next activity, which is also part of the run phase. Just gonna switch the view. Okay. So we've seen the value accelerator for deeper analysis. We saw the on-time payment performance. Now let's move on to the next major activity of the run and continuous improvement phase, as I said already. The second goal after reviewing performance and realized value is to actually operationalize towards a value-driven transformation project, meaning to prioritize values in the transformation project. And in a broader sense, this means to shift from a project mindset towards an organization that particularly focuses on business process management and realizing actual values. In this activity, SAP Signavio and also Cloud ALM, for example, come into play. Aim is to keep process definition in sync with solution realization. We now have the possibility to synchronize and update process information from SAP Signavio to Cloud ALM. In Cloud ALM, we can attach requirements, for example, or test cases and a lot of other artifacts required for implementation. I think you've seen that in the previous session on the deploy phase. However, we can also leverage this integration on a regular basis. So we can leverage the integration between Cloud ALM and SAP Signavio to continuously synchronize and update process information. This ensures that the process documentation we once created during the process or the transformation project someone in the early stages of the transformation project, and we can ensure that such documents don't end up in the drawer, but actually they are used and continuously monitored. If you have any questions regarding Cloud ALM and the integration with SAP Signavio, feel free to raise them now in the Q&A box. If you would like to find out more about it, I would advise to you once again to watch the implementation chapter, which was recently shared on YouTube. It contains more in-depth information on Cloud ALM and Solution Manager, along with our ALM strategy at SAP. However, also for this phase, the run phase, Cloud ALM comes into play and is relevant to keep the process documentation realistic and also alive. We remember the second critical task of the run phase is to operationalize the value-driven transformation project. We remember that means to actually follow a value-driven approach throughout the transformation project and beyond. If you want to achieve this, it is key to establish clear roles, responsibilities, and a governance within your project. All of these three pillars should focus on value. So don't just set up a project team the way it has been done in the past years, just because it has been done like that. Make sure that all roles and responsibilities focus on achieving value and prioritize accordingly. Of course, in every project, there are tasks that don't necessarily generate high value, but you have to do them anyway. Well, make sure they are covered, but focus on the major value drivers. Now, I mean, that's kind of obvious. At SAP, we don't have a specific tool to reorganize your governance and set up new structures like line organizations focused on value. That happens within your organization. But we have the tools to get transparency into process performances, like some of the tools I just showed you. We have the tools to sync lifecycle management and documentation, and we have vast consulting experience in the domain of process excellence. In regular calls, enablement sessions, for example, we share our experiences and guide consultants along with customers on their journey to become value-focused, efficiently operating organizations. The time is probably not sufficient to cover all aspects, but on this slide, we see one of our recommended approaches towards such an organization. We recommend to set up a process transformation office within your organization. This office is governed by the C-level, and the office is directly reporting to the C-level. This fosters management visibility, plus we get some extra help from management, of course. There are various roles within the PTO. You can see that in the green box. The PTO head is typically closely connected to the organization of global process owners. Ideally, they have created a community where they leverage knowledge exchange and keep themselves in sync on the different aspects of the process. In the PTO, we have some classic roles, like, for example, quality assurance, making sure that we're complying with the regulations and the previously defined process setups. We have administrational tasks, and there should be a BPM trainer involved, ensuring to share knowledge and upskill all other process stakeholders outside of the PTO. And then there is value management, focused roles included, taking care of the various process-related solutions used and on possible use cases to drive value. The insights generation domain with process and data analysts is focused on as-is processes and continuously monitors the performance of processes and identifies improvement opportunities, for example, by using some of the tools I showed you. The PTO is closely connected to the various global process owners, of course, and the respective experts, who are in turn closely connected to the local process owners. Further domains relevant for the PTO, the Process Transformation Office, are enterprise architects and enterprise architecture management, application lifecycle management, and data management. All of these domains can be, by the way, covered by SAP technology like Signavio, LeanIX for architecture management, and Cloud ALM for application lifecycle management. So just as a little bit of an overview on what we recommend. Now we're already on top of the hour, I think, and it's time for Q&A. Let's wrap up this session. So to transform successfully, we want you to make sure to leverage SAP's capabilities or process management capabilities. This way you can ensure a project completion with proven value because you have the numbers at your fingertips. Such proven value, by the way, doesn't only ensure that you kept your promise, but it also gives you better chances for management buy-in in the next project, because as we all know, it might be just around the corner. The second key takeaway would be to use SAP Signavio capabilities to identify and quantify process optimization. With this approach, you can prioritize process optimization within your organization, and it helps you to keep up the top-notch performance on a continuous basis. As I said earlier, we want to make it stick. So even after the project is finished, you are still performing super well with your processes. Lastly, and that's the ultimate goal, make sure to run projects not for the sake of running projects, but prioritize the value and foster a value-driven process mindset within your organization. We have plenty of tools at our fingertips that might be helpful for you to do so. All right. So it's almost time for Q&A. Let's briefly go through the additional information I shared with you over here on the slide. First of all, we have some click-throughs available that show you how you can consume and explore SAP Signavio related content. Then I also have 2 click-throughs on the demos that I just showed you, so you can check it out yourself. There is a business user guide available to get to know Plug and Gain a little better. And of course, we have the 2 roadmaps for Solution Manager and also Cloud ALM, since I was just mentioning it. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I did a lot, and I think, Robert, we're good to go with the Q&A now, right?
Yes, of course, Julia. The good thing is all questions have been answered already. So in case you have additional questions left, please feel free to raise them either here verbally or type them also in the chat. I would like to rephrase one thing because I received many questions on the best run score and on Plug and Gain. So this seems to be a very trending topic, Julia. The Plug and Gain approach actually is a huge out-of-the-box accelerator that helps you to gain insights into process performance and execution. So you don't need to mine your processes individually, one by one, but with Plug and Gain, you get predefined analysis for over, I think, 70 or 80 now process variants. So that's a huge accelerator for getting insights into this performance. And the best run score, which was the question many times, actually is an SAP invented score. So it quantifies how well you execute your process. So for example, you have different variants. For example, how you can create your purchase orders. You can create them manually. You can create them automatically. You can create them via BAPI interface or any other thing. And you can categorize if this is a favorable execution or if it's an unfavorable execution. And depending on this, what is it? The balance of these cases that run through these process variants, the best run score gets calculated. So it's actually the amount of favorable cases compared to the amount of unfavorable cases. Yeah, and this, for example, then creates the best run score for purchase order creation. We have seen many questions on this, Julia, so that's why I wanted to rephrase this also verbally, because I'm a man and I also have difficulties to answer questions while listening to you.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you so much. I have nothing to add. If you like, I can also show you once again the reference diagram with the different boxes, which are either green for preferable or red for unfavorable process steps. But it's also linked in the process documentation. There is, by the way, a business user guide. I can also share it in the chat, which also explains the best run score pretty well. And in 2 weeks, we have a YouTube enablement on Plug and Gain coming up, so stay tuned for that. There is one entire chapter dedicated to the best run score, because I know very well it's not the easiest metric. However, it's super helpful if you want to measure values and review the effectiveness of your processes.
All right. Julia, we have 1 or 2 additional questions now coming up. I can also start answering the questions, so please feel free to add. We have the question that, in simple words, what's the difference in the plug and gain approach versus standard SAP Signavio? We have a second part of the question. I will phrase this later on. So first off, plug and gain approach is relevant for process analysis and mining. And standard Signavio, or Signavio in essence, is much more than just process analysis. Signavio is a transformation suite that supports you from the analysis through the design until the rollout with a lot of content. So the plug and gain approach is just a part of it, a small part of it. So I hope this answers a bit the question. Plug and gain, as I said, is a huge accelerator. It provides you out-of-the-box insights, including predefined analysis, into a broad process scope of over 70 process variants. So you don't need to mine all those variants by yourself. And I guess you might know what effort process mining can be. But plug and gain uses some logic. I don't want to go into details now, and provides you these insights out of the box. So the standard process mining would be, you mine a process, you extract data, you transform data, you load data, you create dashboards, and then you have for one process this analysis only. Plug and gain provides you in over 70 processes those insights. I hope now this question got a bit clear. What is the difference in terms of implementation, deployment efforts, and cost? Well, what's the difference, Julia? Can you answer this question?
Well, does this relate to plug and gain now?
Yes.
Or to the phases? Okay, so the difference in, let me check, the difference in the plug and gain approach versus standard. Okay, so the implementation of plug and gain is actually, well, a little more straightforward than a typical mining project, because the benefit of plug and gain is that it's really designed for business people. And if you already, or plug and gain is basically the combination of, first of all, connecting your ERP system to process insights, and then actually within a day, that would be the worst case, you're able to load data from process insights to process intelligence. So you have basically both worlds available. The first one on process performance views within process insights, and the second one of really seeing the actual process flows, how it's executed in real life in process intelligence. So for plug and gain, I would say the implementation as such is super easy. We now have a connector available that is also that you can actually set up yourself. We have plenty of documentation available on this. So I'd say it's quite straightforward. And since it's really designed for business process stakeholders, it's easier than, for example, a process intelligence or a typical mining project in general.
We also had the question if there is kind of a discovery edition available for plug and gain, and here the answer is no. We do from SAP side, but also you maybe from partner or consultant side can offer usually offer so-called workshops, customer workshops, where you demonstrate the capabilities of plug and gain. So for plug and gain, no discovery edition. That's the easy answer. However, we have a discovery edition available, for example, for SAP Signavio Process Insights.
Yeah.
This is, as Julia just said, it's just one part of it. It has a slightly different focus. So of course you can touch the systems but for Plug and Gain, only together with pre-sales.
Correct.
So we do have customer experience with Plug and Gain. Definitely. We also have public references. I will post the link, or I will post the link in just a second here. We also had now on the, for example, SAP German Annual Congress, we also had reference customers talking about how they leverage Plug and Gain in order to identify value potential and continuous improvement potential by analyzing process execution and process performance. So it's definitely in use deeply with many different customers. Let me just look for the link.
And by the way, the capabilities of Plug and Gain that I just showed you are really just the deep dive analyses, and only 2 of them. We have plenty of more capabilities that are available through Plug and Gain. As Robert said, there is the process variant analysis, there is a transaction code analysis, letting you know which transactions, also custom transactions, are used and how many people are using them. Just as an example, you can compare the different process variants, select your favorite process variant, and then export it into the process manager where you can create documentation from it. So there's plenty of use cases when it comes to Plug and Gain. But I'm glad to hear that there is such an interest into that topic. And luckily, there's a lot coming up in the next weeks with regards to Plug and Gain.
Even more questions. So now I guess 1 or 2 colleagues here in the chat or participants are now waking up. That's great. Is there a difference in the quality of output of Plug and Gain without mining intelligence, etc., versus Signavio? Again, in Signavio, what is Plug and Gain? Plug and Gain is simply an accelerator, so that you don't need, which is based on process insights data that you don't need to extract, transform, and load by yourself. Plug and Gain is a content accelerator that does a lot of this project work for you. You can leverage, and it is based on SAP Signavio components. So it needs product capabilities that come both from process insights, process intelligence, and other SAP Signavio components. You could do process analysis and mining also individually with the other components, but then you don't get the breadth of content, but you have a look at, in process insights, at the performance, for example, and there you get also everything out of the box, but you don't see execution paths there. And you could do also process mining with SAP Signavio Process Intelligence individually. So also possible, but then maybe just for one process. So Plug and Gain is this content accelerator that gives you these insights with less effort now for 70 or 80 process variants. You don't need to do everything by yourself.
Right, yeah, that's pretty well described, I'd say.
I hope so.
Just as a remark, we used to call Plug and Gain an approach because it's basically the combination of 2 Signavio products, Process Insights and Process Intelligence, just so you know.
Are the Plug and Gain edition or approach also available for SAP partners to implement, or only SAP is implementing?
I can take that one. So right now, at the current stage, this current state is that SAP does the first steps of setting up Plug and Gain, the initial step, and then the customer can either set it up themselves, so take the next steps individually, or they can have a partner for support, or they can have SAP Signavio for support. So that's up to the partner. However, the initial setup is still done by SAP.
And if this question was raised by a partner, also imagine yourself being the value advisor for your customer, because the Plug and Gain approach provides a lot of insights into process performance and execution. And now it's the question, what to leverage based on those insights. So to leverage your process knowledge based on the data you just received, together with the customer, to identify appropriate value cases to focus on. So here you can be the advisor, and what is taken out of your work is getting you the data in place and the analysis and the dashboards in place. So all the underground work is accelerated for you, and you can focus on the value creation and value realization.
Very well.
Good, all answered. I will post the link to the Plug and Gain homepage because it's a trending topic. And there you also definitely see reference customers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
So
and stay tuned on that page because, as I said, in just a few weeks, there'll be more content on Plug and Gain for you to get to know it yourselves a little better and understand the scorings, for example.
Here is. So I will post now the homepage in the chat, so you will hopefully find everything you're looking for there. How much effort is needed to connect SAP Signavio Process Insights to our SAP ECC on-premise? You can do it by yourself. We can also post the link to help.zap.com where you find all the steps that are required. I could tell you it only takes 15 minutes, and that's actually the truth, bearing in mind that you have put prerequisites in place. So it requires specific plugins and certificates that you need to install and transport into your productive system. And once this is in place, you have to create such kind of S-Trust, and you have to connect to the Process Insights application that is running on our business technology platform. And this, in fact, only takes you, if you know what to do, 15 minutes. With this being said, Julia, I guess we're done. All questions answered.
Yeah, well done, Robert. And thank you so much for joining.
All right, I think I will take over from this part. We are almost at the end of the hour. And thank you very much, Julia. And thanks, Robert, for delivering this great session, for answering all the questions. And there were several questions around availability of the slides. And as I've already indicated, the slides will be available under the description to the video on the playlist that I've already shared. And we will, of course, upload the recording of today's session on the playlist, so it will be available approximately by the end of the week. So I can see one more question in Q&A tool, but this is probably the last one, Robert.
Yes, I just have a look. So I'm just stuck. I answered the question. I sent the link to help.zap.com to the administration guide. So you find prerequisites there. You find all the steps there. So everything you're looking for should be there.
All right. With this, I think we are really at the end of this session. Again, thank you, everyone. Stay tuned with us. We continue with our Move to Cloud ERP webcasts. From next week, we will start with the selective data transition approach. And there will be 5 sessions delivered around this topic. So stay tuned with us. Join us next week. And with this, thank you very much and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.